This is Theraflex on its big night out at the British School of Osteopathy in London. And this is the British School of Osteopathy. The famous Dr. James Syriax, Jimmy, known as the father of orthopaedic medicine according to Wikipedia, wrote an acknowledgement in his last but one book to a Dr. Clifford Harley, a London-based orthopaedic physician, thanking him for showing him a new and effective way of giving epidurals to help cure lumbar disc issues. Meet Dr. Clifford Harley.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the BSO this evening. To brief. It's a real pleasure actually to have Dr. Clifford Harley here with us this evening. I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit about his background, but he's an orthopaedic physician, and he's going to be talking this evening on the diagnosis and treatment of neck and back pain, sciatica and peripheral joints. So
here you've got this patient. He's in your surgery. He can't stand up straight. I've got this horrible pain down my leg. What are you going to do about it? Now, when I was at Guy's, we had an orthopaedic surgeon on whose firm I was who got back problems sorted. Now, the patients were all x-rayed before they came in to see him. And he'd say to them, "Hello, where does it hurt?" And I'll say, "Oh, it's down here." And he'd say, "Can you bend down towards your toes?" And they'd do what they could. They could. And then you put the x-ray up on the screen, and if there was a bad disc showing, you put them in a corset, and if there wasn't, you sent them to the psychiatrist. And that was backs as far as he was concerned. And I went into general practice, and I found that this approach didn't go down very well with the patients. And I had one chap who I said, "Well, the only really effective treatment I can offer you is to go home and lie flat on your back for 6 weeks. And take painkillers, and I'll come and see you every week, see how you're getting on." And he said no. And at the age of 25, a fully qualified doctor with 2 years experience in general practice, I'd never had a patient say no. My wise advice before. He said, "I'm going to go and see an osteopath." And I was about to draw myself up as we were talking, we should do, and say, "If you go to an osteopath, then you need to come to my practice anymore." And I thought, well, perhaps there is something more that can be done. And that was what started off my interest in osteopathy and orthopedic medicine. And I was very lucky in quite coincidentally meeting a chap called Robert Danbury, who was a Czech who had been chased out of Czechoslovakia by the Russians and gone to Vienna, and he'd been chased out of Vienna by the Nazis, largely because he was running guns in his ambulances to the resistance, and came to England. And he re-qualified in medicine after the war and went into orthopedic medicine. And he taught me the basis of, more than the basis of everything that I'm talking about to you today, and of everything that I've done in orthopedic medical practice since. And so I said to Robert, "What are we supposed to do about these guys with the discs then?" And he said, "Give them an epidural injection." I was then introduced to James Syriax, and I went and watched him working in his clinic. And Jimmy used to thread as much of a 4-inch needle as he could get up the epidural space through the caudal hiatus, and inject 50 mil, 0.5% propane, with the object of pushing the disc back into place. Now, Jimmy was a great man, but he did have one or two funny ideas. And patients used to go blue and grey and pass out. And I said, "Jimmy, this does seem a little bit over the top. Why not try putting some hydrocortisone in? Because surely the nerve root irritation is due to inflammation." And he said, "Well, I don't think so, Harley. I'll give it a go then." So he did. And in fact, Jimmy so changed his ways with epidural injections that if you look in one of the last one copies of his book, you will see that he gave me kind mention in his book. He came to my name and he said, "Oh, he said, I'd put you in my new book." I said, "Oh, thank you, James." So I got a little acknowledgement for it. And the key to sorting out lumbar disc problems is primarily the epidural injection. And as often the patient says, "Is that all?" Whereas their friends who said, "Don't let him give you a spinal injection. My friend had one and it was agony." And a nicely done epidural injection should cause the patient very little discomfort. Having put the epidural in, we then have the question of whether we're going to manipulate or not. On the whole, I don't manipulate the lumbar disc, but on the whole, I do manipulate the cervical disc. And a lot of tutors will teach in the opposite direction, but I've been manipulating for 40 plus years now, and I've never had any sort of disaster from manipulating someone's neck. The lumbar discs are large and squidgy, and if you go and squidge out the rest of the nucleus pulposus, then you could be ringing up your friendly local neurosurgeon and saying, "I'm sending this patient in for operation now." I became a private orthopedic physician purely by popular demand. I treated the patients in the general practice for 15 years, and they told their friends, and then I went back to Guy's and did my DPhys med, which made me respectable, and colleagues then sent patients. Rupert said okay, after 15 years in general practice, I've got so much private practice because the treatments work, that I came out of general practice and have been doing this ever since.
Have you injected directly into a nerve?
Hmm?
Have you injected directly into a nerve?
Occasionally, the patient said, "Ow!"
Take it out?
I do not deliberately inject into a nerve, no. I inject, the epidural injection of course goes around the nerve, and the facet joint injections affect the nerves. But no, there was, I think, at one time a vogue, as well as injecting pineapple juice into discs, of injecting the sciatic nerve itself, and both were painful in effect. When you place the patient on their face, you can usually identify which of the facet joints is causing the pain, because they'll be quite specifically tender under your thumb. And if the patient's thin, you can often be very accurate and identify it very clearly to L34, L45, L5S1, whichever it is. And I treat these with a combination treatment. It's often difficult to manipulate a fixed facet joint because the pain causes reactive muscle spasm around it, and when you try and manipulate it, the muscles clamp down and stop you moving it. And in order to get around this, I inject a local anesthetic with some hydrocortisone in it around the tender facet joint. The local anesthetic relaxes the small muscles, and if you give it time to work and do some massage, you can very often then gap a facet joint which you hadn't been able to gap before. Because the facet joint rapidly becomes inflamed, if it is stuck or out of position, then the hydrocortisone which I mix with the inflammation which I mix with the local anesthetic, deals with the inflammation as well. And so you get a relatively simple problem. I imagine one of the things that can happen with the facet joint is that it rides up onto its rim in rotation and gets stuck there. And when we gap it, we simply drop it back into its proper place. So, simple, straightforward, acute back. The patient says, "It happened the other day, I lifted something heavy, turned awkwardly, and I've had this pain on the left side of my back." And examine them, you find no abnormal neurological signs. There may be some limitation of forward flexion. Straight leg raising is usually normal. And when you press on it, you find marked tenderness there. So you put a little injection of local anesthetic and hydrocortisone onto it. Give it a little time to work.